Hey everyone, today we're going to be testing out and comparing the new CoverGirl Simply Ageless Skin Perfecting Essence with the Chanel skin tint that everybody is saying is a dupe. So I already have a full review on this particular product here on my channel. I reviewed it a month ago, I think it was, when it first launched, and I purchased it with my own money. But interestingly, CoverGirl just sent it to me again in PR, and they sent this little card kind of with the description of the product, and right in the middle here in bold, they said, "You won't find this formula from any other drugstore brand. Feel free to compare to a $70 brand." So they're not even denying that this is a dupe for the Chanel. And since it's viewer request month and I have gotten so many requests, it's probably the #1 request that I've gotten to compare this to the Chanel. Is it really a dupe? I figured we would go ahead and do that today. We're gonna do a wear test and see exactly how these stack up against each other. I'll show them in natural lighting as well as my studio lighting. And we're also gonna find out why these are so expensive. This is the most expensive foundation at the drugstore, and this is the second most expensive foundation at Ulta, and the only one that's higher than this is also another Chanel foundation. So we're also gonna go ahead and talk about the ingredients as well. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. All right, so first and foremost, let's compare these two. So I purchased the Chanel in their lightest shade, which is light, and I also have the CoverGirl in the shade light. This one does come in a fair shade, so it goes a little bit lighter than the Chanel one does. And both of these products contain 1 fluid ounce. The CoverGirl retails for $21.49 at Ulta, and the Chanel is $70. So the CoverGirl is a fraction of the price. Both formulas contain mostly water and glycerin at the top of the list. The Chanel is 75% water, the CoverGirl is 71% water. And floating around in that base of water and glycerin are these micro droplet pigments that burst on contact and really sink into your skin. These really do feel like a skincare foundation hybrid, and it really helps them to blend into the skin effortlessly. Now, beyond the water and glycerin and the floating pigments, the Chanel formula is basically floral extract and fragrance, while the CoverGirl has 0.5% bakuchiol, which is a retinol alternative that helps to increase cell turnover and help to fight fine lines and wrinkles. The CoverGirl also does not have fragrance in it, so for me, I actually think the CoverGirl formulation is superior to the Chanel. The fragrance in here can be an irritant for some people, and it also doesn't have the bakuchiol skincare ingredient that the CoverGirl has. Like I said, it's just water, glycerin, floral extract, and fragrance. So with the Chanel, it's clear that you're paying for the packaging and the name versus the actual formula itself. I honestly don't understand why a bottle that is 75% water and then a couple of other cheap ingredients would cost that much. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm gonna say right off the start that this is extremely overpriced. And then when it comes to the CoverGirl, this is the most expensive foundation in the drugstore category on the Ulta website, but there are a few foundations that come pretty close. We have the Morphe Filter Effect Foundation and L'Oreal True Match Nude Hyaluronic Serum that are only $1 less. And then also you have the Revlon Illuminant Skin Tint, which is $19. So there are definitely a couple of newer drugstore formulations that are getting up there in price. And I think that drugstore makeup in general is becoming more expensive, particularly when it comes to the big brands like L'Oreal, CoverGirl, Revlon. I think, smaller brands like Essence and LA Girl, for example, are keeping their prices a lot lower. But one thing that I have noticed, and this is just my conspiracy theory, that when drugstore brands are launching all of these dupes as of late, especially e.l.f. is one that I can think of off the top of my head, they seem to charge more than they normally would for a similar product. And I feel like they're playing this sort of mind game with us where, they assume that we're going to be comparing their product to the higher end version. And when you do that, of course, the drugstore one seems so much cheaper. I mean, when you compare these two, a $21 skin tint seems a heck of a lot better than a $70 one. But it makes you kind of forget about the fact that this is really expensive for a drugstore product, and it makes it appear like you're saving so much money when in reality you're not. So that's just something to keep in mind. But that being said, this is a really beautiful formula. There's nothing else like it at the drugstore. So why don't we go ahead and put both of these to the test and we'll see what happens. So I want to start with the Chanel first. I haven't tried this one, so I'm really curious about it. And I mean, when you pump it out on your hand, it looks the same. It has that same really watery consistency with the little micro beads inside. And they did send this little dense brush to apply it with, but to be honest with you, I find that the CoverGirl one applies the best with fingers, and I think it's because it feels like you're applying skincare, and I would apply that with my hands. So that's basically why I do this. And right off the start, I think the Chanel one feels pretty much identical. It has that water-like feel that's really, really cooling and refreshing. It feels like my skin is just drinking it right up like a skincare essence rather than something sitting on top like a foundation. And as I massage it in, that water just goes right in and brings that pigment along with it, just sort of evening out the skin tone without looking like you're trying to cover something up. I also do smell the fragrance in the formula, but it's not that strong. I was expecting it to be maybe a little bit more floral, but thankfully it isn't super strong. So, yeah, I mean, now that I've been using the CoverGirl one for a month, I can definitely see the similarity as I'm applying this. I don't really see much of a difference at all, both in terms of how it applies, how it looks on my skin, how it feels. It is incredibly similar. All right, let's go ahead and just apply the CoverGirl version. Okay, yeah, so I definitely thought that the Chanel was similar, but now, like, comparing them side to side, it really, I mean, it's like I'm applying the exact same thing. It has that same really refreshing, cooling kind of sensation as it goes on. I feel like the coverage is really similar. The Chanel one might be just slightly paler in color than the CoverGirl. I think the CoverGirl blends into my skin tone just a little bit better than the Chanel one does. But as far as the texture goes, what I love about both of these, sorry, is just how natural they look. And I'm gonna show you a close-up. Let me go ahead and zoom you guys in and we'll take a closer look. Okay, so looking at both sides of my face, I honestly cannot tell any difference whatsoever between these two. I think they both look totally seamless. Even up close, it doesn't look like I'm wearing foundation, which is what I really love about this type of formula. And neither one settles into pores or fine lines. I am 46 years old, again, with dry skin. So oftentimes foundations can really look aging on me. And what I love about both of these is that they act like skincare in that the hydration they provide gives that plumped up sort of effect and makes my fine lines look way less apparent. I also just want to quickly show you what this looks like in natural lighting without my artificial lights so you can see what it looks like in real life. And again, I think it looks equally as flawless. There's no makeup-y look to this. Even up close, no one would be able to tell that I was wearing foundation. It just looks like my natural skin. So overall, I am really impressed with how well the CoverGirl is holding up compared to the Chanel. We're going to do an all-day wear test, like I said, but I just wanted to put on some other makeup really quickly. So today I'm going to be using the new Colourpop Lost in Love collection. They had sent this to me in PR, and I've really been wanting to try it. Everything looks so pretty. So first up, we have the Lost in Love palette. This is a 12 shade palette. It has really beautiful pinks and peaches, and it has a mix of matte shades, regular shimmers, and then some shimmers that are more glittery. So it's definitely a very Valentine's Day type of color story. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start out with the shade Dibs right here. And I'm just applying this right to my crease. I love this dusty pink shade. This is beautiful. Then I just want to deepen up the outer corner with the shade Yours Truly down here at the bottom. And I'm just taking a really small brush. This is the A504 from BK Beauty. And I'm just putting this really precisely in the outer corner. And then I'm just going to blend that out with a larger brush. This is the A503 from BK Beauty. And then for my lid, even though there are some gorgeous shimmer shades in this palette, I really want to use one of the Jelly Much shadows that also came with this collection. So there were 3 altogether, and Jelly Much shadows are some of my favorites. I have a huge collection of these, and they're my favorite one and done eyeshadows because they're just so easy. They have this fluffy, moussey texture, and I just pick them up with a finger, slick them right onto my lid, and they make such a huge impact without having to wet them or use any type of glitter primer, and they just dry down beautifully and they last all day without creasing. So I just love these, and for today's look I want to use the shade All Love. It just looks so gorgeous, and I know that in the past they had some issues with these drying out really quickly, but supposedly they've changed the packaging so it's not supposed to do that anymore, and I have some from like 6 months ago that are still holding up just fine. So I think they may have solved that issue. You just have to make sure to put the stopper back in and really make sure they're closed up tight. So as you can see, like these just make such a gorgeous impact on the eyes, and they have a really thin texture too. You only need the tiniest little amount, and they feel kind of cooling on your lids, similar to the CoverGirl and Chanel foundations actually. Whenever I'm gonna wear glittery shades, I prefer something like this too because they don't have all of the fallout that powder shadows have. So next I'm just gonna add mascara and I'll be right back. All right, so I just used the e.l.f. Lash Extender Mascara. Next I wanna try these new lip and cheek balms from Colourpop as well. This is all part of that Valentine's collection. So again, these are called the Lip and Cheek Balm. They come in their heart-shaped compacts, which they also do have powder blushes in, but these are supposed to be a cream formula that again can be used on both lips and cheeks. And I have 3 shades: Heart's Content, Adore You, and Cutesy Wootsy. I think these are so cute, so beautiful. So I think for today's look, I'm gonna try the shade Heart's Content, which is the lightest one. And I'm gonna pick this up with my BK Beauty 107 brush. I love this brush for creams. It's fluffy, so I feel like it blends them really nicely, but at the same time, it's still firm enough to actually pick up a cream product. And wow, this is going on beautifully already. It's sinking right into my skin. There's no sticky feel to it. It's like a cream to powder, and the color is really gorgeous as well. Wow, that's so nice. I also want to just try a little bit on my lips, the same color, and we'll see how it applies that way. I'm worried that it might be a little bit drying just because they're drying down all the way on my cheeks and they're not like a really dewy formula, but let's see. It is such a beautiful color, and I'm hoping that this kind of stays on like a stain. I love that. It's really soft, really pretty. I did have lip balm on underneath, so it doesn't feel dry at all. But I also want to try one of these ultra glossy lips that also came in the collection. So again, they sent me 3 different shades. One that's more peachy called One Kiss, a beautiful pink called Taken, and then a red called Lover Era. So I think I want to try the Taken one. It's kind of like the same color as my turtleneck. So I'm just going to pop this right on top of the lip and cheek cream. And I believe that they have reformulated their glossy lips also. Now they're a lot thinner. They almost feel kind of more like a lip oil, lip gloss type of hybrid. And the scent is kind of like a fruity vanilla. It's kind of both. So I don't mind it. It smells pretty good. So here's what that color ended up looking like. So anyway, I'm gonna go about the rest of my day. I'll do a check-in somewhere around the midpoint and we'll see how everything's holding up, and then a final check at the end of the night. So I will see you guys back here in a little bit. Hey guys, it's about 3 p.m. I'm just sitting here at the school waiting for my son to come out, and I figured I'd do a quick midday check-in. So we have the CoverGirl on this side, the Chanel over here, and I feel like they're looking still pretty much the same as they did before. This side looks a little glowier, but I think it's because the light from the window is hitting it, and over here it's not. Let me just see if I go like this. That's a little bit more even. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like everything is still looking the same on both sides. So I'll be doing another check-in later on tonight, probably around 8 or 9 p.m. and I will let you know my thoughts. All right, guys, let's go ahead and do our final check-in. It's been about 8 hours or so since I applied the foundation, so I just want to zoom you in, do a quick close-up, and we'll see what things are looking like. So first of all, you are going to notice a little bit of glitter on my cheeks. Normally, I don't get glitter fallout with these Jelly Much shadows, and I know I mentioned that earlier. This one is particularly glittery though, so I think that's probably why. But beyond that, I think both sides of my face are looking pretty much identical. Both the CoverGirl and the Chanel skin tints are holding up really well. Especially for formulas that don't claim to be long wearing, I felt like they really did a great job at hanging on and keeping the redness on my nose at bay. Typically, that's the first place that foundations wear off. But this one, I think because it just really sinks into the skin so well. They're such a thin, water-light formula that they're not just sitting on top and they're not going to rub off like a lot of foundations would. So I find these to be particularly long-lasting. And like I said, I have been wearing the CoverGirl one now for a month, and I know how that one wears already, but I was just so curious to see how the Chanel one compared, and I really do think it's identical. I don't notice any difference between the two on my skin, other than that the Chanel one has some fragrance in it. I'm gonna go ahead and say that the CoverGirl Skin Perfector Essence is a dupe for the Chanel. It's a lot less money. It is expensive for drugstore, but again, like I said before, I do think that there's really nothing else like this at the drugstore right now. It is my favorite skin tint by far, and I'm willing to pay a little bit of extra money for this. And keep in mind, drugstore brands regularly go on sale, whether it's at CVS, you can use the extra bucks on them, Ulta, you can use your points, you can use coupons. So in the end, you may not end up having to pay $21 for this anyway. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. If you have tried it already, let us know down in the comments what you thought of it. And also just quickly, I thought that this blush from Colourpop lasted a really long time. I love it. It did end up looking a little bit warmer toned on my skin than I was expecting it to, which typically happens to me because I have a cooler undertone. Usually something has to be very, very cool toned in order to show up that way on me. It has to kind of have some purple in it. This shade, while the compact looked cool toned, I feel like the color inside is a little bit of a warmer pink, so it's kind of showing up that way on my cheeks. But I do love the formula. I think it's awesome, and I do have a coupon code with Colourpop to save $5 off a $25 purchase. So that's Jen Phelps if you're interested in checking any of this stuff out. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I really, really appreciate it so much. And if you're new here and you enjoyed this review, I hope you'll consider subscribing. I do all completely unsponsored reviews here on my channel. So if that sounds good, be sure to hit subscribe, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.